you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Livin the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream. What up, Dream Team? Coach D here coming at you from beautiful sunny San Diego, and welcome back to the Livin the Dream podcast. And today, we are throwing it back. On Throwback Thursday, we dive into some of the best episodes from the archives, packed with timeless strategies to help you crush your health, fitness, and wellness goals. These episodes might be from the past, but the lessons still hit hard today. Whether it's a mindset shift, a fitness tip, or a nutrition hack, this throwback is here to remind you just how far you've come and how much further that you can go. Today, we are rewinding to a powerful episode that breaks down what it really takes to lose fat, and more importantly, keep it off. This one's called The 4 Pillars of Fat Loss, and it strips away the gimmicks, the shortcuts, the clickbait nonsense that currently dominates the health industry. Instead, we go deep on the real evidence-based strategies that lead to sustainable long-term results. Whether you're just getting started on your health journey or you've hit a plateau and you feel stuck, this episode gives you the foundation that you need to succeed. Let's throw it back to the truth that still holds strong today. All right, team. So if you've ever struggled with your weight or body composition, you know how complicated and how challenging it can be. When you listen to the experts telling you how to eat and exercise, you hear all this talk about vegan, keto, carnivore, or HIIT training, cardio training, weight training. One expert tells you this is the way to do it, and another expert tells you the exact opposite. Even me, who tries to spend most of my waking hours studying fitness and health, I'm getting so tired of experts misleading the public, usually because there's money to be made or status to be taken. If you ever hear someone say, this is the only diet that works, or this is the only workout that will get you to lose fat, you know they're full of crap, or they're either trying to sell you something or they don't even know what they're talking about. Everything in fitness and nutrition is individualized, everything. And what works for you now may not work for you forever. And what works for someone else, even if they're your identical twin, doesn't mean it will work for you. This is actually where I get really excited, while others may get kind of frustrated. I think it's super cool to be able to explore how food and movement affect you individually. Trial and error is what it's all about. Here's why most people get frustrated. This takes time. It takes failing over and over and over again. It takes being super aware of what is happening with your own body. And most people, to be honest, they just want to tune out and focus on other things. It takes effort to track how food makes you feel, how your body composition is changing, how your mood and mindset are affecting you. This all takes time and effort. I've coached thousands of different people, and I hear this all the time. Coach, I've been working out for a month now, 5 days a week. I've been eating super healthy, and I'm just not losing any weight. Well, the first thing that you should do is, if this is you, after listening to this episode, go back and listen to episode 2, Why Am I Gaining Weight When Working Out? And listen to why weight on the scale is not the best measurement for your fat loss goals. Next thing, we have to start thinking about how complex fat loss and manipulating your body composition actually is. If losing body fat was easy, we would all be at our desired body fat percentage. Yet, more than 1/3 of adults in the United States are obese. That's 36.5% of adults are obese. Another 32.5% of American adults are overweight. So in all, more than 2/3 of the adults in the United States are either overweight or obese. And what's worse is that the rate of morbid obesity is on the rise, even though we're getting more and more information about how to eat and how to move. It's not easy anymore in this day and age to control your body composition. We sit more than ever. We have technology helping us do things with less energy expenditure. We no longer value movement for what it is. And we lack the ability to be inspired by what the human body is actually capable of. So for today, We're going to break it down, the 4 pillars of fat loss. 4 incredibly important factors to help anyone looking to lose body fat. This will be a nice little overview because alone we could talk about each one of these individual topics for hours and in depth. Yet society tends to only focus on maybe 1 or 2 of these at the most. So let's begin with pillar number 1. Pillar number 1 for your body fat loss goals is movement. Your movement and total daily energy expenditure can be broken down into 4 different categories. First category is your BMR, basal metabolic rate. Your BMR is defined as the rate at which the body uses energy while it rests to keep vital functions going, such as breathing and keeping warm. So basically, if you stayed in bed all day long, or if you were in a coma, your basal metabolic rate, your BMR, is how many calories or how much energy you would use up just being alive. Well, this is crazy. Check this out. Up to 70% of your totally energy expenditure, all the calories that you burn throughout the day, up to 70% is made up of your BMR. Almost 2/3 of the total calorie burn just coming from you being alive. You can search online or use any app in your app store to find a BMR calculator and put in some basic information, and it will give you a rough estimate of what your BMR and how many calories it takes to keep you alive. This is tricky though, because you have to be super honest with yourself. It will ask for your age, your gender, your weight, and then it's going to ask you for your daily activity level. Almost everyone reports their activity levels as higher than they really are. So once you get to that part, be super honest with where you are right now. And if you're stuck between 2 different categories like moderately active or very active, it's best to err on the cautious side and just select the lower activity level just to be safe. So the first category of your movement is BMR. The next category of your movement is actual exercise, right? Your exercise is the process or activity carried out for a specific purpose, especially one concerned with a specific area or skill or goal. You plan out your exercise and it is for a specific reason, so such as body fat loss or practicing for a sport or working on your cardiovascular endurance or increasing your quality of life, something along those lines. Surprisingly enough, your exercise only accounts for about 5% of your total daily expenditure. What? BMR was up at 70%. And exercise, the thing that we usually think about, this is the way to combat obesity, only about 5% of your totally daily expenditure. Seriously, like what's up with that? There's 2 things you could do with this information. One is get really frustrated and give up on exercise altogether because, well, obviously it's a waste of time. Or 2, realize that exercise is super important for a ton of other reasons, from physical to physiological to psychological to the structure and discipline of working on your health. Exercise, if done correctly, can help build muscle tissue, which in turn would increase your BMR even more. Or it could be a great way to increase your overall daily movement, as well as other benefits, of course, that exercise has to offer that we've mentioned in previous podcasts. So we have the BMR, we have exercise. What else? The third category of movement is NEAT, N-E-A-T, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. NEAT. It's essentially just all the other daily activity and movement that doesn't come from your BMR or your planned exercise. It ranges from the energy expended walking to work, or typing, or performing yard work, or undertaking agricultural tasks, or even fidgeting. That's right, those people that shake their legs when they're in a meeting or tap their fingers when bored, those fidgeters, me being one of them, I'm sorry that I'm annoying sometimes, are burning more calories than those who don't fidget. Check this out. Your NEAT accounts for about 15% of your total daily energy expenditure, 3 times more than planned exercise. That's amazing, right? The other beautiful thing about NEAT is that it's the most easily manipulated category of movement. This should be super exciting to hear, because if we're trying to increase our calorie expenditure, but don't think that we have the time to exercise, well, we can make a huge impact just by affecting how we live our everyday lives. You've heard it all before. Park in the back every single time. Or take the stairs instead of the elevator. Take frequent breaks at work if you have a desk job, to walk to the water fountain or to walk to the bathroom, or just to take 5-minute walk to increase your daily movement. And as a byproduct, studies show an increase in your productivity as well. We have all heard that we need to move more throughout the day, increasing your steps in your movement. But did we actually know how huge of an impact that really is on our fat loss goals, it's massive and should definitely be focused on more than your planned daily exercise. If you do nothing new with your diet and nothing new with your planned exercise, but make it your goal to have 12,000 steps a day, and also make sure that you're never still for more than 45 minutes at a time, I would bet all the money that I have in my bank account that you'll start to see a shift in your body composition just from increasing your NEAT. So that's 3 categories. You got BMR, you got exercise, you got NEAT, and the last category of movement and your total daily expenditure is the thermic effect of food, TEF, thermic effect of food. About 10% of your total daily expenditure throughout the day is just from digesting and metabolizing your food. The more food you ask your body to digest, the harder it has to work to do those bodily processes, requiring more energy and ATP to be used to make that happen. There is a difference between the thermic effect of what types of food that you eat. So, for example, there's a difference of how many calories it takes to metabolize simple carbohydrates than how many calories it takes to metabolize protein or fiber. The thermic effect of protein, like chicken or steak, or the effect of fiber, like starchy vegetables, can be all the way up to 25% of the total calories ingested. So if I could say that a different way, it uses up a quarter of the total calories consumed just to metabolize and digest those forms of food. That's crazy. Whereas on the other side of the coin, in contrast, simple sugars such as like Pop-Tarts or soda pop, which have essentially no protein or fiber, it only takes 2 to 5% of the total calories to metabolize and digest that food. So you're netting over 95% of the calories ingested, whereas if you focus more heavily on protein or fiber, you'd only be netting around 75% of the total calories. This is a huge, huge thing to consider, especially in the world where we're looking to counteract the easy access to high-calorie, hedonistic foods along with our sedentary lifestyles. So carbs and fats have 5 to 15% calorie burn cost, whereas protein has 20 to 30%. That is what it takes to use and metabolize and absorb and digest that food. So there are a few factors that go into your TEF. Obviously, your age, your gender, your movement throughout the day helping you digest the food, your exercise, your portion size, right? So the larger meals, they take up more energy expenditures to digest than, of course, a smaller meal. And then also the composition of what your meal is made up of. So what types of food is your meal made up of? So while your TEF doesn't have as large of an effect on your fat loss as BMR, it's not as easily changed and manipulated as your NEAT, but if planned and used correctly, you could definitely include TEF in your arsenal of weapons at combating excess body fat. A list of thermogenic foods would include chilies due to the presence of capsaicin, or peppers and black pepper due to the presence of piperin. You could have green tea, coconut oil, ginger, and lean meats such as fish. And of course, caffeine is the most well-known thermogenic supplement proven to have benefits on overall energy expenditure. So after discussing pillar number 1 and the 4 categories of overall daily energy expenditure and movement, TEF, NEAT, exercise, and BMR, that leads us very nicely into pillar number 2. The second pillar to fat loss is, of course, nutrition. That's right. If you were to ask anyone about what it takes to lose body fat, they would tell you exercise and diet. These are the 2 most common answers, and they seem to be, well, held in the highest regard by most of our society when it comes to controlling your body composition. So nutrition, it's one of the more obvious pillars to body fat. If you put more in your body than you use up, then the entire body mass will increase. If you put less in your body than you burn, then your entire body mass will decrease. Now here's the tricky part. It's a moving target. Your body is a crazy, complex adaptation machine, and it will adapt and it will get more efficient, and it will create certain metabolic pathways in the body that changes how much you need to ingest or how much you will need to burn to create this calorie deficit that dictates whether you lose body fat or not. It's a moving target. So yes, a calorie deficit is important to fat loss, but only if you do it the right way. Crash dieting is way too drastic on your metabolism and will create a ton of other problems for you when it comes to trying to lose to that stubborn body fat. But what is metabolism? If I were to ask you right now, what is your metabolism? Could you give me an answer? Some of you might say it's how fast your body burns fuel in your food. Others might say it's how high your personal energy level is, which simply put, both answers are actually correct. But your metabolism isn't just one thing. Your metabolism really describes every single biochemical reaction that goes on in your body. Your nutrition affects your metabolism greatly. Let's go a little deeper in on this. Some people used to think that your metabolism was like a calculator. This thing that you added this plus that and out came the result. And when that was discovered to be way too simple of an answer, people started to explain the metabolism as if it were a chemistry set where you mix different hormones and you were left with whatever the compound created. But there are so many different chemical reactions and processes happening at the same time in your body that the chemistry set example just doesn't fit that well either. The best way I prefer to describe it is that your metabolism is actually more of a stress barometer or thermostat. A barometer reads and registers change, and in this case, the change is stress in the body and makes a change to get back to its homeostatic set point. I'll explain by giving a few examples here. So let's talk about something that's really frustrating: stalled weight loss or weight loss resistance. Let's say you've decided to make a change in your life to get healthier and lose weight. You start eating well and exercising consistently, and maybe you see results for a little bit, but then you hit a plateau. You're eating less and you're exercising a lot, and nothing is changing. Why is that? So a plateau is your way of knowing that your body has now adapted to your new lifestyle. When it comes to the metabolism, the expert that I like to follow is Dr. Jay Teta. He's the man. He is the metabolism guru. He's the one that teaches the metabolism as a stress barometer. Essentially, your metabolism is reading the changes of stress in your body. It measures your hormone levels and also things like sleep, hunger, mood, energy, and cravings. If something is out of the normal, your metabolism will adapt and try to get things back to normal. So your metabolism is adaptive and reactive. So as you cut calories or you increase physical activity, your metabolism will respond. How does it respond? Well, if it thinks you're starving because you've cut too many calories, it's going to respond by releasing ghrelin. That's the hormone that makes you more hungry. It will respond by increasing your cravings to make you want to eat the wrong calorie-dense foods. It makes your energy unpredictable, and it lowers motivation for exercise. And one of the worst things it does is it slows your metabolic rate, which is the worst thing that could happen if you're looking to lose body fat. All of these things put together make it so much harder for you to reach your fitness goals. When this happens, most people think that they need to cut calories even more and exercise even harder. And that's really the worst thing that you could do, because right now, if that's you, you're fighting back against your biology. The strategy very rarely ends well. If you push too hard on your metabolism, it may even stop responding altogether, and you may even get what's called metabolic damage, where you run into weight loss resistance, digestive stress, and other issues like that. However, if you do it the right way, you can make less stressful changes to the metabolism and make sure that you're both on the same team. Now, Dr. Teta teaches four different toggles to use for your nutrition and physical activity. The first toggle is called eat more, exercise more. This is the athlete model. So eat more, exercise more. This is a great way to build a broken metabolism. For those people that have crash dieted all their life, those who are currently eating a super low calorie diet and exercising regularly but still not losing weight, this is a great toggle to use to slowly be able to increase your daily caloric intake and also increase the amount of calories that you burn at rest. And hopefully in the process, put on some lean muscle mass to get you to a point where you're eating, let's say, 3,000 calories a day and not gaining weight. How awesome would that be? If you could eat that much and not gain weight or lose weight, that would be a huge win, wouldn't it? What do I mean by that? Well, if you go from eating 1,200 calories super low and being hungry all the time, your hunger, your mood, your energy, your cravings, they're all out of whack, to eventually eating 3,000 calories a day without gaining weight or losing weight, and you're not hungry, you have essentially created a buffer of calories to now be able to cut from and start working at a calorie deficit to start losing the weight. You have taken steps to quote unquote repair your metabolism, right? This is a long battle and it takes time. You have to counteract all the crash dieting and excess stress you've been putting on your body and your metabolism to then be able to be at a place where you can actually have some room to work. You just can't cut from 1,200 calories. You can't. There's nowhere to go. And no one wants to have that life. So if you're someone who has a low calorie count per day and you're exercising like a fiend and you're plateauing, I highly recommend using the eat more, exercise more toggle. And by exercise more, I don't mean just doing hours and hours of cardio. I mean heavy weight training with your daily activity and movement being higher. So shoot for 10 to 12,000 steps or more a day and just see how your body responds. Lift heavier and step more. I bet your body responds differently. So first toggle is eat more, exercise more. The next toggle would be eat more, exercise less. And this is the classic couch potato model. Eat more, exercise less. This is actually what most of our population is using. I would use this one sparingly, only because our society is already set up to be on this toggle very easily. I usually use this once a week, such as on a weekend, when I'm having fun with my friends. Some people call it a refeed day, others call it a cheat day. I personally don't like the phrase cheat day. It implies that we're doing something wrong. I like to say it's a treat meal, if you're going to call it anything. This is actually a great way to focus on other parts of your health too. There's something really important about having a day out with your friends, not stressing and just being so consumed with what you're eating, and consider that an emotional and social health. These are huge factors that go into your overall health. It's when these treat meals turn into treat days, and these treat days turn into treat weeks, and then they just become part of our normal everyday lifestyle. That's when we have a problem, and that's where we are faced with the problems that we have today. So we have eat more, exercise more. We have eat more, exercise less. The third toggle is eat less, exercise more. This is the dieter model. This is what we were talking about earlier. This is where most people go right off the bat when they're getting motivated and they want to start exercising for fat loss, and that's okay. However, remembering that the metabolism is a stress barometer, it reacts to what happens. So the more drastic change you make, the more it's going to try to push back and fight you. Eat less, exercise more, the dieter model, or the other flip of the coin, the couch potato toggle, those are both huge stresses to the metabolism. You may see short term success, but the long term pushback may be something that you'll have to deal with in the near future. I like to throw this in maybe 3 times a week. Eat less, exercise more. This is usually on my busier coaching days where I don't have much time to eat. I'll step around 25,000 steps a day, which is a ton. That's like double what an active person does. And maybe I'll only consume around 2,000 calories that day. And most of my calories are consumed around the time of my workout that day, which, I mean, as soon as I ingest it, it's being used up for fuel, right? So that's a really, really great way to keep my body fat percentage low. And the last toggle that Dr. Tita teaches about is eat less, exercise less, the European model. This is typically the European standard where they have tiny meals throughout the day. They walk almost everywhere. They aren't, well, on average, crushing their souls, working out every single day for hours at a time. This is another one of the toggles that isn't a huge stress on the metabolism. It's a more gentler approach to changing up what you've been doing. So think active recovery days. Once or twice a week is good for me. When you're working more on yoga or stretching or foam rolling or nice easy walks out in nature, and maybe you only consume about 50 to 60% of your normal calorie intake. This is a great toggle to throw into, yes, have the metabolic stress barometer react to a change in your behavior, but not to have a super huge rebound effect that the couch potato or the dieter toggles offer. So what you want to consider when playing with these toggles is, are your hormones working for you or are they working against you? Are you always hungry? Is your sleep terrible? Do you have mood swings or trouble controlling your mood? Is your energy out of whack? Or do you have a hard time with cravings? If your sleep, hunger, mood, energy, or cravings are out of check, then it means you're on the wrong path. You need to change something up. That is a sign that your metabolism is fighting against your goals and that you should have a good clue here that the toggle that you're in needs to change. So the goal is to keep your sleep, hunger, mood, energy, and cravings all in check with whatever process you choose to take. All right, so that's the diet and that's the exercise, but what else could possibly be involved in losing body fat? When people come to me and they tell me that they've been eating well and working out hard and cannot figure out why their body fat is not coming off, my next question would be, okay, so you have the obvious pillars down, but do you have pillar number 3 under control? Pillar number 3 is stress. Yes, stress. In a world of nonstop action and constant stimuli, during every second of your waking hours, you have to make sure that you are bringing the right positive stresses into your life while consciously and adequately working through the negative stresses in your life. Stress is more than just an emotion. Stress is actually a physical response that travels through your entire body. A small amount of stress can be a good thing, but if prolonged over time, it can have adverse effects on some of your most important vital organs. When you're stressed, your adrenal glands release cortisol. They release epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, and they release norepinephrine into the bloodstream and make its way to the heart. Cortisol can break down your muscle into glucose, which can stimulate more cortisol release and create a negative feedback loop. Cortisol tells your body to replenish your energy stores with energy-dense foods, causing you to crave comfort foods. It also tells your body to store these excess calories as visceral or deep in body and organ fat. This type of fat doesn't just make it harder for you to fit into your clothes, but it actually releases hormones and immune system chemicals called cytokines, which increase your risk of developing chronic diseases such as heart disease or insulin resistance. Remember that cortisol is not the bad guy. Cortisol in some situations can be good, but when chronic and long-term cortisol, if left uncontrolled in your body, real bad things can happen. Remember, our body is a very complex stress response. It is fundamentally intended to protect us. Back in the hunter-gatherer days, if a tiger was coming to kill us, what happens? A predator approaches you and your stress response kicks in. Adrenaline is there. Your blood sugar starts to rise so that more glucose can get to your brain so you can figure out how to get out of the situation. Your blood pressure starts to go up so more oxygen can get to your brain. Your amygdala goes on high alert so you're hypervigilant to dangers around you. Your blood becomes more prone to clotting, which is super important if you get cut or bit. It could save your life. The problem is we are currently getting the same responses, but from things that aren't life-threatening. Emails, kids, work, social media, TV shows, traffic. It's everywhere. With these small stresses, do any of those physiological responses sound like a good thing? High blood sugar, high blood pressure, always on high alert, blood clotting? Definitely not. Yes, these are all fairly small things in the big picture, but over time, they can accumulate to large problems. Not only does chronic stress have a major effect on our health, but this is where we add up all those tiny small doses of stress throughout the day until you hit this boiling point. And that's where it's all boils over into an episode of rage or depression. You know, we've all had those complete meltdown days where it seems to be from something small, but it's not. You've hit a threshold of stress, and eventually you're going to hit that boiling point. So let's do something fun. Let's break down a normal morning, a normal day. You go to bed at night, and let's say it's at 11 p.m. or whatever, and as you're in bed, you find your deep sleep, and at 6:30 in the morning, your alarm goes off. Boom. That's one tiny little stressor right as you wake up. You don't feel super rested, so you hit the snooze button, and 5 minutes later, it goes off again. Stressor number 2. Then what? What do? For me, I look at my phone. I'm trying not to, but this is what I used to do. Look at your phone. You see emails from work. Why is my boss sending an email at midnight last night? And I didn't respond to 2 people's emails, and now they're bugging me for a follow-up. And then you see social media notifications, and you click over to your social media, and that weird person who's always posting about that really annoying thing, boom, stressors 3 and 4 right there, all before you've even gotten out of bed. Then you realize that you've been in bed for too long and that you're going to be late for work. Boom, stressor number 5. You can see how these little stresses add up, and by the time you get out of bed and get to work, you've already had a dozen stressors. It's crazy. You only have a certain amount of stressors that you can handle until you hit a threshold and boil over, and serious negative health conditions can occur. When your brain senses stress, it also communicates with what some call the second brain in your gut, your enteric and intestinal nervous system. This stress, along with giving you that butterfly feeling or that stomach drop feeling, it also affects the way you digest food. The rhythmic contractions that move food through your gut are affected and disrupted, which could lead to irritable bowel syndrome and can also make your gut lining more sensitive to acid, causing heartburn and other digestive issues, all from just stressing out. Stress can also change the composition and makeup of your gut bacteria. This is one of the newest topic matters in science when it comes to your health and fitness right now. It's hot, your microbiome. You've heard about it, and it's being studied like nothing else right now. But we still only know very little about your microbiome. We are just now realizing how important its role is in our overall health. Now, all stresses are not bad, right? A small stress to your body allows the body to react and adapt from that stimulus and respond by becoming more resilient. Just like if you had a project at work and the deadline is coming close. If you're someone that has the mindset of thriving in that situation, that could quite possibly be a good stress for you. Also, obviously, physical activity and exercise is a positive stress on the body when done correctly. You create small micro damage stress to the muscle, and the body responds by creating stronger and more resilient muscle due to that stress. But what happens when you overdo it or you go too hard for too long? Well, now your body doesn't have the time to rebuild, and all you're doing is breaking yourself down. And soon you'll find that threshold where either injury or burnout occurs. It's all about finding the sweet spot, enough stress to elicit a response for adaptation, but not too much. I will always remember this thing I learned in sports psychology class 101 at Oregon State University. Oh yeah, shout out to the Beavs, hashtag go Beavs, OSU. But my professor talked about how when you have an event coming up, there are two things to look at: your preparedness and your nervousness. My professor said that you want just the right amount. You want a moderate amount of preparedness and a moderate amount of nervousness, and that's what yields peak results. This was so interesting to me. You could over-prepare and not be worried at all, and your performance wouldn't be as good even though you over-prepared, because that brought down your nervousness, and maybe you were just too relaxed when the time came and you didn't optimally perform. And of course, the opposite could be true, right, too. You didn't prepare at all, and now you're super nervous, and of course your performance is going to suck. It's all about finding the small amount of stress from being nervous, I call it excited, that really brings your A game, along with the moderate amount of being prepared. I loved that. And I always think about that when I'm going to give a speech, or I'm on camera, or I'm about to coach a huge group of people. A little feeling of nervousness is good, and to be prepared, just don't overdo it. That's the sweet spot. Another example of stress to the body is sunlight. Sunlight is so good for the body, and I'm definitely going to go more in depth on light and how good it is for us on another episode. But just think about when you go outside in the sun. Let's say you haven't been out in the sun for months. Either it's been winter or there's no sun, or you've been super busy at work, or whatever the case is. Let's say you haven't been outside in months, and then you were to go outside the next day for 4 hours straight. After not seeing it for months, you're probably going to get sunburned, right? Instead of getting tan, you'll get red, and then you'll burn and you'll peel. You overdid it. That's too much stress that the skin is not adapted to handle. However, let's do it this way. If you went outside for just 5 minutes the next day, and then 7 minutes the next day, and then 10 minutes the next day, and you slowly built your way up to 4 hours, you would be resilient to the UV rays. And instead of burning, creating major damage to your skin, you'd be getting all the benefits that sunlight has to offer. Just because you're finding just the right amount of outside stress that will cause the skin to adapt, but not go over that threshold point where now you've done more harm than good. There's so many things in life that are like this. So think, what things in your life cause quote unquote negative stress? Remember, your life is always filled with stressful situations. And what really matters is how your brain responds to the stress, right? It's all about how you see the situation. Are they challenges that you can control and master, or are they threats that are insurmountable? How stress affects the body is entirely up to you, and how you react and process the stress is the one thing that really matters. I will go over some tips and tricks at the end of this podcast that have helped me better react to my stress in my life. So we have exercise and movement. We have nutrition for our pillar number 2. We have number 3 is stress. This brings us to our 4th and final pillar. Pillar number 4 is for sure sleep and recovery. So sleep and recovery. How many other things do you do in life that occupies a third of your life? I used to be under the assumption that sleep was some kind of waste of time. I used to think if there was a magic pill I could take to keep me awake, I would have just so much time to do other things. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Sleep is for the weak and unmotivated. Oh man, I was so wrong. Sleep is not lost time. It's not just a way to rest when you're tired and when you have nothing better to do. There are many benefits that come from sleeping. Sleep is vital and critical to your success and health. During sleep, your body balances and regulates its important systems, your respiration, your circulation, your immune response. Those are all controlled and enhanced through the process of sleep. Sleep is extremely important to the brain as well. 1/5 of your body's circulatory blood is sent to the brain during sleep. And when you're sleeping, your brain is being restructured and cleansed, and this plays a huge role in your memory and how you'll be able to process the information you've learned. Lack of sleep is also one of the largest risk factors in obesity. Like what? Lack of sleeping and getting fat? How are those connected? There's a study done in 2010 where they had 2 groups of people on the exact same calorie deficit diet. One group got 5.5 hours of shortened sleep, while the other got a full 8.5 hours of nice long sleep. By the end of the 14-day study, the group that got 8.5 hours of sleep lost 55% more body fat than the other group. And here's the crazy part. The 5.5-hour group, the short sleep group, actually lost important and valuable muscle tissue. Here's what the article states, quote, "The 5.5-hour sleep group also had less favorable changes to metabolic hormone levels and substrate and energy use. In addition, participants in the shorter sleep group perceived greater hunger, accompanied by higher ghrelin levels, that the participants than the longer group got. Given that higher ghrelin concentrations may facilitate the retention of fat, and increased hunger could compromise adherence to caloric restriction, these mechanisms may help explain why insufficient sleep could compromise the efficacy of common dietary interventions." So essentially what that article was saying is when you lack sleep, it lowers your inhibition levels, it lowers your willpower and your motivation, and you lose the ability to recover from your training. That's like a terrible combination of things. This is something that I did a terrible job of when I was younger. I never realized that exercise was a positive stress on the body. You create damage so that when you give it time to repair, it can adapt and become more resilient to the same amount of stress. I literally thought that as I was doing my bicep curls and as I was doing my push-ups, that every single rep was making me stronger and stronger. When in fact, I kept doing these exercises that broke my muscle tissue down, but I never focused on letting them recover with sleep and active recovery days, and of course, good nutrition. And that left me absolutely frustrated when I kept getting injured and sick, and my tendons and joints would hurt, and I wasn't getting any stronger. Friends, it is in the recovery where you rebuild, strengthen, repair, and progress. Your sleep and recovery are as important, or dare I say, more important than exercise and diet. Sleep can help you train better, help you make better choices with your diet, and it can help mitigate some of the stresses that life has to offer. So yes, while sleep is one of the pillars of fat loss, it might be the largest and most supportive pillar of the 4 that we've discussed. So we've got all 4 pillars. We've got our movement, we've got our nutrition, we've got our sleep, and we've got our stress. Let's take all 4 of our pillars and create some action items for us to be able to implement into our lives so we can get started on the road to helping us lose some body fat and become our healthiest selves. Let's start with the pillars that everyone knows about: movement and physical activity, and then nutrition. There's an old rule that people still follow today, and I actually used to teach this when I first started personal training. The old rule states that if you take your calories burned from BMR what you're expending at rest, and you add those calories to your total calorie expenditure from physical activity and exercise, when you get that total number of calorie output, all you have to do is subtract 500 calories from that. And that's how many calories you should be eating per day to lose 1 pound of body fat per week. This would be considered the eat less, exercise more toggle. Now, this math seems pretty straightforward, right? 500 calories a day. If you multiply that by 7, that equals 3,500 calories, which is 1 pound of weight. Notice that I said weight and not fat. This old rule is assuming that you're losing 100% body fat. But I hope if you've learned anything from the previous episodes of this podcast, is that nothing with the body and nutrition and fat loss is ever that simple. This strategy could actually have negative or adverse effects if done too drastically, and the body's going to probably fight back in one way or another. I actually prefer this strategy now. If you're going to use calories, try doing it this way. Add up your total calories from BMR and physical activity. And again, you can get these numbers from any BMR calculator, as mentioned before. And then you can either guesstimate your physical activity expenditure by looking at what activity you're doing and the intensity of it, and then how long. And there's charts all over the internet that can help you get a nice calorie guess on how many calories you've expended doing that activity. However, if you're really serious about tracking, I highly recommend an all-day wearable device that tracks your steps, your activity, and your total calorie expenditure. For me, I personally wear the Oura ring, the Oura ring. It's a low-profile ring that you put on your finger that tracks almost everything that you could need. I don't have any affiliation with Oura, obviously, but I absolutely love their product. It's the best that I've used out of all of them. I've used a ton, but it could be anything from the Fitbit, the iWatch, the Garmin watch, or even just using a heart rate monitor when you're working out. Now, your phone isn't the best route to go because you don't always have your phone, and even if you do, it's kind of inaccurate when it's measuring your steps. You're just looking for something that can give you a more accurate read on how much energy you're actually using. So take 1 to 2 weeks and just see what your calorie expenditure is. Look at the average expenditure for 1 to 2 weeks without changing anything from your normal routine. Your goal for the first 1 to 2 weeks is just to see where you're at. You just want to have an awareness of where your default is. You got to know your baseline so we can know where you're starting, so that we can know where we want to go, right? So once you have your average amount of expended daily calories with your BMR and your activity, I would either start by consuming 200 less calories than that for a week or two, just to see how your body responds. This is giving yourself a tiny caloric deficit to see if all of your hormones are in check. So I would either do that, or I would eat a calorie maintenance, which means I'm eating as much as I'm expending, and I would increase my exercise in the form of heavyweight training just a little bit by doing 3 to 5 sessions per week. So it would look like this, for example. If I took 1 week to look at my average daily calorie expenditure, and it was 2,500 calories with my BMR and my physical activity, what I would do is I would create a calorie deficit of 200, and I would eat 2,300 calories. I would see how that works. Am I hungry? Is my mood unnatural? Are my cravings increasing? Am I getting tired? If any of these things, your hunger, your mood, your energy, your cravings, are negatively impacted by the calorie deficit, that's a sign that you have to attack it a different way. You have to be okay with your hunger, mood, energy, cravings, or else you're fighting against your hormones and your physiology. If your hunger, mood, energy, cravings are all normal from eating that calorie deficit, then maybe you're on the right path and you can experiment with adding in some more movement throughout your day, which would mean increasing your steps and overall daily energy expenditure. Or you could even increase your protein, which will require more energy from your body to metabolize the carbs and fats. Remember your TEF, your thermic effect of food. For me, I recommend going for at least 0.6 to 1.0 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So 0.6 to 1.0. For me, I just do 1.0 grams of protein per pound of body weight to make it really easy. But you could also increase your resistance training volume. So you can start to create and build some of that more energy burning lean muscle mass to help catapult you from an energy efficient burning machine to an energy inefficient calorie crushing machine. Remember, you want to make your body as inefficient as you can because the more inefficient you are, the more your body has to work to upkeep. And there's nothing more inefficient than dense muscle tissue. I recommend hitting each major muscle group in your body 2 to 3 times per week with heavy resistance training. So the main muscle groups consist of your legs, your back, your chest, your arms, and then, yes, your core, your low back, and your abs. So hit each of these muscle groups at least 2 to 3 times per week and hit your protein intake, and you will set yourself up for success to attain some super valuable lean muscle mass tissue, and in turn, some beautiful, safe, and effective body fat loss that will stay off. I would rather you eat a calorie maintenance without starving yourself, so you're eating the same amount of calories than you're using up, and eat the same amount of calories just to maintain a caloric balance, and then throw in some heavy lifting and more daily steps to counteract your weight gain and tip the scales in your favor. Look to increase your daily steps between 10,000 and 12,000 steps or more. I know that's tough. I would rather you do that than to sabotage and shock your body with a huge caloric deficit and a ton of cardio to get the fat loss off. If you do shock your body this way, you may get short-term fat loss and the scale will maybe drop fairly quickly, but I can assure you the stats say that over 90% of the time, it's going to come back. And with this strategy, it's probably going to come back worse than where you actually started. Moving on to how we're going to control our daily chronic stress. I'm obviously not a doctor or a psychiatrist, but I can tell you what's worked for me. My self-care journey started with me making it a goal for myself to go watch the sunset on the beach at least 3 times per week. That was it. I had to watch the sunset 3 times a week on the beach. That was a non-negotiable for me. Whether my friends wanted to go out that night or I had a lot of work to do, I still took an hour out of my day to go sit in nature. I would either listen to music or think or listen to a podcast, or I would take a walk on the sand. Now that hour of just being in nature, well, it shifted a little when I found the app Headspace. I started to work on breathing and doing guided meditation. Headspace is a great beginning app for relaxation. I totally recommend it. You can use the free portion, and it gives you little tutorials and quotes, and it helps you out along the way. There are other things that you can look into, like the Muse meditation headband. This headband can read your brainwaves and tell you when your mind has wandered. This is actually what I use right now. I really, really like it. It gives you immediate feedback, and then it also gives you a summary at the end to just show you with a graph of what your mind was doing. It's really cool. A little spendy, but I think it was worth it for me. There's also the app Brain.fm. You can use it for studying, sleeping, meditating, relaxing. It's sweet. A lot of the experts that I follow use Brain FM. Breathwork and alone time are so important to recharge your body and to help you focus on your mindset. We all experience stresses. No one in this world has no stress, but it's how we respond to these stresses and how our mind works through these stresses that is truly important. This alone time you're giving yourself is where you work through all of it. Working on breathwork and meditation is cumulative too. It's just like exercise and nutrition. The more consistent you are, the more benefits that compound in the long term. So set aside time every day. Maybe it's in the morning right after you wake up. Maybe it's in the afternoon before you go to bed. Start small. It could be just 5 minutes of your time just every day. And then through time, once you start seeing the benefits and once you start seeing how you're more level-headed and more calm and happier and more understanding, once you really see the benefits, you can start rescheduling your day for more time if you find that's what it's working for you. It's also been proven that walks in nature help in the same way. Green and blue sceneries like forests or beaches or parks are some of the best places to not only get some alone time and to work with your thoughts, but also to increase your daily movement, right? This is a beautiful way for you to get those 10,000 to 12,000 steps or more in. You got to do this away from social media, though. Got to do it away from emails and distractions. You can obviously use your phone for music or for guided breathing and meditation apps, but that should be all you do with your electronic devices during this time. Don't get distracted. Remember what all those little tiny micro stressors do when they build up throughout the day. This is your way of giving thanks to yourself and balancing out those stresses. And finally, figure out a way to use your creative brain. Maybe it's learning something, to play an instrument, or to learn a language. Maybe it's writing in a journal, or painting, or drawing. Find a creative pursuit that can help you really tap into that side of your brain. For me, I've never been creative. My art skills are terrible. It's just something that I haven't put a whole lot of time into and is not super important to me. So I didn't get a lot of this creative stuff in my life. But once my routine for walking the beach during sunset started and I got into listening to podcasts and fitness and health, I started to create things. And it could be stupid things like writing out things for social media that I was going to post or things that I would help with members. I created a growth board where every week I would come with a physical activity, a nutrition tip. I even gave podcast and book recommendations. It was just something creative that really started to help work on that side of the brain. Or if I'm not going to the beach at night, I'm sitting in an isolated, quiet space. For me, I love a hot tub. I could it could be a bath or a sauna, or a comfy chair on your patio. You could focus on breath. You could listen to chill music. Even if you have no skills whatsoever, you gotta find something creative and relaxing for yourself to do. Writing, coloring, doodling. There are adult coloring books or stenciled painting canvases that allow us to work creatively and spend time with ourselves from within. It is so important that we build rituals and relaxation into our lives. And speaking of rituals and relaxation, that leads us to how can we create a sleep sanctuary for the best sleep possible? Remember that fourth pillar, sleep. There's a difference between being in bed for 8 hours and actually getting great quality sleep for 8 hours. The person I learned from the most on this is my favorite fitness professional, Shawn Stevenson from the Model Health Show. If you don't listen to Model Health Show yet, I can guarantee it will change your life. Definitely check out the Model Health Show with Shawn Stevenson. Shawn wrote the New York best-selling Time book called Sleep Smarter as well. If you haven't read it, you gotta read it. Pick it up. Sleep Smarter by Shawn Stevenson. He talks about everything you need to know when it comes to getting the best sleep of your life. Things that you want to make sure you're doing with your bedroom, like completely blacking it out. Blackout curtains, even stickers over little LED lights that are around. Any light, you have to black it out. Also, obvious things here. Take the TV out of your room. Take the electronics out of your room. Your room should be for two things and two things only: sleep and sex. Also, on a side note, couples who keep a TV in their bedroom have 50%, that's half as much sex as those who don't have a TV in their bedroom. I'm just saying. This helps with stress relief and physical activity right there. Boom. But back to sleep. You want it as dark as possible. Also, you want it cool, between 60 to 67 degrees. They actually have some really cool inventions nowadays that help keep your bedroom and your bed cool. I personally use a chili pad. It's a little spendy, but you can actually set it up to whatever temperature you want your entire side of the bed to be. It uses water to cool your side of the bed to the exact temperature all night. It's like when you turn that pillow over and you feel the cool side of the pillow, but it's like sleeping with that feeling on your entire body, on your entire side of the bed. It's amazing. So find a way to keep your bed cool. You also have to think about the blue light that your eyes see after the sun goes down. Our bodies and minds are meant to wake up with the sun and go to the sleep when the sun goes down. But nowadays we have lights and TVs and computers and phones, and all these things emit harmful blue lights that affect our sleep. I recommend wearing blue light blocking glasses after the sun goes down to tell your brain that it's about time to start winding down. For me, I wear True Dark blue light blocking glasses, True Dark, but there are a ton of different types of glasses out there. There's kinds that you can wear at night and kinds that you can wear during the day. You want to minimize the amount of blue light your eyes see, especially if you're on a computer for work. And this has been proven to give you better quality of sleep, spending more time in the deep sleep and the REM sleep than if you had consumed a bunch of blue light just before bed. And definitely limit your screen time within the final hours of your day. If you watch something that's scary, or a documentary that gets your hormone levels firing, or expose yourself to crazy social media world out there, you're going to be sure that your sleep will suffer. You could also grab a red Himalayan salt lamp and put it in your bedroom, and then turn that on as it gets closer to bedtime. Sean Stevenson talks about creating a ritual and doing that same ritual every night so your brain knows what's coming. The more you can standardize your nighttime routine, the better your sleep will be. For me, my routine is I take a hot shower. Then I drink a nighttime tea. I drink gold juice from Organifi. It has turmeric, reishi, turkey tail mushroom, magnesium, just a bunch of stuff that helps with sleep. That's gold juice by Organifi. And then I do 20 to 30 minutes of nighttime yin yoga, yin, Y-I-N, where you hold deep stretches for minutes at a time and work on breathing and relaxing. So that's my nighttime ritual. It's helped me get better deep sleep. It's helped my nighttime pains go away. It helps me fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. So find that routine that works for you. As you can really start to understand, there is so much that goes into controlling your body's composition and working on losing body fat, right? We're talking about exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress. It's not just one thing that we can do. It's not as easy as saying eat less, move more. You are a complex organism with lots of factors going against you in this journey to making yourself the healthiest and happiest person you can be. If you can really put these 4 pillars of fat loss into action and get them under your control, you will be much more successful in becoming the person that you want to be. Movement, nutrition, stress management, and sleep. I hope you got some value and insight on today's topic, and if you need any suggestions on how to better strengthen any of these pillars for you, never hesitate to reach out to me. It's not easy. It's not supposed to be. It's a great way for you to learn more about yourself, and once you've accomplished your goal, it's a great way to be proud of how hard you've worked and how much you've actually achieved. All right, Dream Team, that's it for today. Please share with me any knowledge, thoughts, or questions you may have on today's topic. I'll make sure to answer and discuss on the next episode. You can ask your questions in the comments section or message me on any of the social media platforms. Also, I would be so thankful if you shared this episode with any of your friends or family that may be able to benefit from today's podcast. I would love it if you could do me a solid and screenshot this podcast and share it on your social media platforms and just write one takeaway, one aha moment that you got from this episode. This will help me know what's really valuable to you, and so I can keep the good information coming. And it also lets your network know if this podcast is worth a listen to them. Thank you so much for listening and learning here with us on the Livin the Dream podcast. We are so grateful for you being a part of this lifelong learning journey. If you have any topics you'd like to discuss, please let us know in the comments or by messaging me on Instagram at CoachDamian_SD. Be kind to someone today, smile at someone today, and leave every person you come into contact with better than before. Until next time, friends, keep living the dream.